says it, he means it, and you don't get to bend it and twist it to what you want.
To reach the lost Israelites, the message has to go to everybody, and then the whomsoever wills will come. The ones who he draws will come.
By the way, knowledge meaning what? Having a relationship with the truth. Oh, you learned, and you got tons of information, but have you come into a relationship with truth? When he says it, he means it, and you don't get to bend it and twist it to what you want.
To reach the lost Israelites, the message has to go to everybody, and then the whomsoever wills will come. The ones who he draws will come.
By the way, knowledge meaning what? Having a relationship with the truth. Oh, you learned, and you got tons of information, but have you come into a relationship with truth? When he says it, he means it, and you don't get to bend it and twist it to what you want.
To reach the lost Israelites, the message has to go to everybody, and then the whomsoever wills will come. The ones who he draws will come.
By the way, knowledge meaning what? Having a relationship with the truth. Oh, you learned, and you got tons of information, but have you come into a relationship with truth? All right, are we ready?
Where's the button? Here? Okay.
Yeah, you're on, sweetheart. Just so you know. Okay. All right, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Why are we here today? It seems to be, I feel like I'm weighted off to the side here because all of you are sitting on this side of the room. And there seems to be probably a purpose to the empty seats on this side of the room. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is having a presentation this morning. The children have gone through a tremendous program all week learning about the fruit of the Spirit. So with no further ado, I think what we need to do is have the leader and director of the program, the Rebbitzin, my wife, Julie, come up and go ahead and tell you what we're doing.
Good morning, Mishpachah. Good morning. It's a bittersweet day for me. It always seems like every year the feasts go by quicker and quicker. I come here with anticipation, knowing that the week will be full of great things, and then it's over in a blink. And so I just want to thank you all for coming this morning. And we're on a time constraint because of the kitchen, so we're not going to do the usual explanations. A lot of you have been here before, and so I just want to welcome everyone on live stream and here in the audience, whether you have children in the program or whether you're just watching. We hope that you will be blessed by today's presentation. We had 4 classes at the feast this year. We had 2 Katan classes. Katan means little. So it's the younger children. We had Katan Aleph, which is the ages of 5 to 8, and we had Katan Bet, which are the ages of 9 through 12. And then we also grew so much that we needed to have 2 Gadol classes. Gadol means bigger, and so their ages are older. And so we had the Gadol Aleph, which were 13 and 14-year-olds, and Gadol Bet, which was 15 through 19-year-olds. And so I'm going to go ahead and just turn over the floor to Katan Aleph, where they're going to come up.
Where's
Galatians 5:22 and 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, self-control, and self-control. Against such there is no law.
that's not it.
Shabbat Shalom. I think I was more nervous than they were. But they did a great job. I'm so proud of them. And thank you, Ms. Shira, for all your help writing the song. It was wonderful. And they really enjoyed it. All right. It was well, for those of you who haven't met me, which I'm sure there are just a few, I'm Miss Mora Sarah Beth, and it was my pleasure to teach Katan Aleph this year, as was stated already, the 5 to 8-year-olds. We introduced the lessons and the fruit of the Spirit on their level in a way that they would understand and be able to interact with. I wanted them to understand what this thing called joy is. I wanted them to know, okay, but what is patience? What does it look like? And more than just sit down and be patient, but actually that's deeper than that, though we couldn't go all the way deep at that level. But to give them a taste of it and give them the idea of why they should choose it, and to give them practice choosing it throughout the week. And we had a lot of fun with that. So, to begin with, obviously, is love, which we used a cherry to represent. And, well, what is love? There's my cherries. Give you a minute to find them, because I'm pretty sure they're buried in there. Anyway, we defined love for them in 1 Corinthians 13, and that love is doing the Torah, loving Yahweh and loving our neighbor, and what that looks like, and giving them ways to show it to each other throughout the week, which they did a great job. We had leaders that were just amazing in the classroom. The older ones stepped up and took care of the younger ones. It was just a complete joy to watch. At one time, Miss Lily was struggling with her chair to push it in, and she was just struggling, and without missing a beat, one of the older students, Arwen, just jumped up and asked real quick, "Can I help her?" And he just ran and took care of her. No prompting, it was wonderful. So our cherries, we chose them because love Yahweh, that involves two, you and Yahweh. And love your neighbor, that involves two. And cherries come in pairs. And I will try to not put our Creator on the spot entirely, but we had really, really good ideas coming from one of the younger people on how to do these crafts and why, helping us older people get in the head of kids. Okay. It's not always easy to become a kid again. All right, joy. We used a watermelon to represent joy. And we defined joy as, it's kind of hard to define joy because it's not happiness. It's more than that. It's easier to understand joy by what it's not. It's not complaining. It's not whining. It's not being grumpy, especially like when you're having to wait for your snack. That's not fun. You want to complain, where's my snack? Give it to me already. And we chose watermelon because when you cut a watermelon in half, you've got that rind that makes us smile. And that's how we can choose to put a smile on our face, even when we don't feel like it. And we had one young lady that really showed that to us this feast. We got to go to the park for a very brief time. And in that brief time, right in the beginning, she fell down, face plant, into the wood chips. Our Miss Sarah. And she was so upset. But yesterday, when I asked them what their favorite time at the feast was, she still chose to look at the fun that she had at the park and say that that was her favorite time. Instead of choosing to focus on the negative, she chose to focus on the fun that she had, and that was a great choice she made. I was very proud of her. All right, banana. Do we have our banana? We chose a banana because it's always kind of looks like it's sleeping or resting or calm. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to use Mr. West's words. He's never seen an excited banana before. That was just awesome. Thank you, Mr. West. That's going to forever be in my head. So we defined we defined peace as being calm, especially when someone's fighting against you, when there's all this excitement and just adrenaline running, and you want to be fighting and you want to be doing something. You can choose to be calm. And it was a snowball fight we used as their choice. So they're in the middle of a snowball fight, and I call out peace, and they have to choose in that moment to stop fighting. And they did a really good job. I was very proud of them. So, patience. We chose a pineapple because, well, I'll get to that after I tell you why, how I defined patience. These fruit and the fruit of the Spirit are becoming synonymous in my head, which was kind of the goal. I want them to become synonymous in the children's head, that when they go home with these crafts, they'll see them and remember what choices they can make in any given moment. So it's worked, in my head at least. They're synonymous. So patience isn't just sitting and waiting. It's sitting, or whatever you're having to wait for, it's waiting with a good attitude and not letting yourself become upset. And we used King David as our example of that because he had to wait a long time to become king, and he did so with a great attitude, even when someone was not making it easy. So we had one story that I really loved. Sierra, when we got to the park again, amazing, so many stories come out of the park, and it was just like 15 minutes. But Sierra got to the park, and half the kids just, it's a park, run. And Sierra said, "Can I go play now?" She waited. She didn't get excited, or she just chose to wait for her teachers, and I was really impressed with that. So kindness. We used grapes to represent kindness. If you look around, there's a bunch of you, and there's a bunch of grapes. Anyway, we taught them that choosing kindness is choosing to care for each other and be thoughtful of others, especially with our words and our actions. And we tied it back to love. And as I've already kind of mentioned, grapes come in bunches, and people in community come in bunches, and we need to learn to be kind to each other. And just one time we went through talking about the different fruit and what they thought it meant. And for most of the fruit of the Spirit, they were kind of fuzzy. They had some of an idea, but in going through explaining it to them in kindness, I felt like, okay, we can just skip this class. They've got it, because they just told me all the answers I wanted. It was great. And so for goodness, we chose a fig. And I defined goodness, well, we had to go back to what is good. And we have been taught that good is the Torah. Doing the Torah is good. And when we do that, that is what we see as goodness, and that's to each other, whether it be returning something that's lost, following the Torah, and doing what the Torah says. And a fig is associated with goodness, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So we made a box, and when you go home, I want you to look inside them, please. Don't just put it on a shelf right away. But next is trustworthiness. Our raspberries, hiding somewhere in there. And we defined that, it's our little bookmark. We defined that as doing what you say you're going to do, keeping your vows. And it was so beautiful that it happened right after the wedding. So when I asked, what does a vow mean? Most of the kids were like, wedding. So the timing was great. So we got to talk a lot about being trustworthy and how you set up expectations by your behavior. And it was great because I had a game with them where they were blindfolded, and Levi and Zach, both their blindfold wasn't on quite right, and they told me so. They didn't just try to go with it. They told me what was true and that I could trust them. And I really liked making all those little connections for them throughout the week, naming the things they were doing as being opposite or what they were actually choosing the fruit and being able to affirm that for them. Can you tell I had fun this week? So, raspberries, we chose raspberries because they are consistent and usually taste the same. You'll get blueberries and they're all sort of taste a little different, but raspberries in a box usually all taste the same. They're consistent. So, next would be gentleness. And we chose, I'll get to why we chose it in a minute. We chose to define gentleness for them. And there are so many ways to go with gentleness, but we seem to mostly focus on our words. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word turns up displeasure. And we chose it because peaches are pretty fuzzy and soft. And that when we go home and you look at them, whether they're hanging on a rearview mirror or just somewhere in the house, the child can look at them and remember to be gentle. And last, but not least, definitely not least in the craft department, self-control. We used a pomegranate. Learning, and we taught them to learn to They had a lot of fun with that one. Learning to control our body and being able to stand still. And telling our body what to do instead of our body telling us what to do. And they did a really good job with that. And we had a lot of great conversations. And the reason we chose pomegranates was because you better eat them slowly or you're going to bite on a seed. So even though they're really good, you don't rush through eating a pomegranate. And we had a good time to practice that, because if you put a bunch of balloons on the floor in front of a child, especially a 5-year-old, they're going to want to kick it. That's against the rules. That's not gentle. So they had to control their feet. And what made it worse, there was static electricity making them cling to their feet. They had a really good time, and they really worked hard to not kick them. And it was really hard for the 5-year-olds, but they did a great job. But I do hope that when you go home, these crafts remind you of what you've learned, and that you parents can use them to further these messages with your children, and that they can help bring peace, and your children will have more patience at home and be able to keep choosing these ways and choosing to be like Yeshua. And I want to say a great big thank you to my students. I had some great students this year. I know all kids are great, but I'm kind of partial to these at the moment. I had some great leaders. I had some great followers. The great older kids really stepped up and helped the younger ones. I am so proud of you all. Thank you so much. And to my parent helpers, you were phenomenal. Thank you so much. And Miss Jill, you were above and beyond. Thank you for being my second brain, keeping me on track. And to our leadership, thank you for this incredible opportunity.
I know. Just real quickly, because you are Israelites. You know what that means? I got to remind you things every day. I think at least once this week I told you not to be on the Wi-Fi during the meetings. And guess what? We're having problems with the bandwidth because some of you are still on the Wi-Fi. Please check your phones and make sure your Wi-Fi is off. See how quickly we can forget things? Or we might think that, well, that rule was, you see, we're not dispensationalists. That rule wasn't just for yesterday. Well, that was for then. Okay, when we're having meetings, including this afternoon, the rule is that you don't have your Wi-Fi on. Thank you. Oh, lights? Okay, hold on. I don't know if it's going to make a lot of difference. We've got a lot of light coming in through the windows, but...
Hey, I'm back again. So I'm Maura Julie. I had the privilege of doing Katan Bet yet again. I think I've done it now for like 20-something years. And I also had the privilege of having Miss Cece as my assistant, and she also created the lap book. A lot of homeschoolers do lap books to enforce and reinforce what they've learned in their lessons. We're going to be showing you the lap book that they created throughout the week. I also had Miss Yesenia shadowing me, and so I appreciated her input this week. And I had a lot of tremendous parent helpers, and I just want to thank all of you who came into Katan Bet, and especially I want to thank, this thing's like so close to my face. I want to thank Steve and Gwen Waffle for coming in every single day. And so thank you, wherever you are. Back there. Oh, on the back couches. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciated your help. But just like Maura Sarah Beth said, everyone was phenomenal. I really appreciated the time that they gave of themselves and the hearts that they had to serve. Is this okay, or am I? It's okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we had a notebook that the children received with the fruit of the Spirit on it and the fruit that we chose to represent it. And we taught the children right off the bat, this is not the fruit that Yahweh wants us to produce, right? We're not making cherries and bananas and watermelons, right? But we can use this as a visual to reinforce what we need to represent, and that is the nature of Elohim. The whole point of the fruit of the Spirit is to represent Yahweh's Spirit, right? Not our fleshly nature or the Hasatan's nature. So fruit is wonderful, and it can also be bad, correct? So on our introduction day, our introduction verse that we chose was, excuse me, John 15:16, which says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain." And we talked about what that fruit is. And like I said earlier, it wasn't that your fruit should be cherries or pineapples, but that your fruit is your actions, what you do. And so Yahweh chose us. That's why we're here today. And it's really important that we show his fruit of the Spirit. Okay, I'm not really used to this. Okay, then the first day we were introduced to the first fruit of the Spirit, which is love. And on our notebook page, we had on one side, we represented what love is and what love is not on 2 cherries. Okay, so what love is it is patient, kind, rejoices in the truth, covers all, believes all, expects all, endures all, and never fails. Okay? And then on the other side, we represented what love is not. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not puffed up. It does not behave indecently. It does not seek its own. It's not provoked. It reckons not the evil, and does not rejoice over the unrighteousness. Okay? So this is to reinforce to them what love should be in their lives and what the opposite of love looks like. Oh, okay, and then I mentioned that every day we introduced the Hebrew word for that fruit of the Spirit. So the Hebrew word for love was ahava. So every day they got a Torah scroll and 2 sticks, and they wrote their Hebrew words in their English word. And then also we represented each fruit with a good fruit. So you see here plump cherries, and then you see some shriveled cherries. And then inside we wrote a good verse and a negative verse. So for love, what we had was John 15:12. This is my command, that you love one another as I have loved you, which is the greatest command. And then for the bad fruit, it was, we had told the story of Cain and Abel, and that the verse to back that up is Leviticus 19:17, which says, "Do not hate your brother in your heart." Okay? And then we also taught the Hebrew word for heart, and we have a little pull out, and it says lev when you pull it out. So these were the main points we wanted the children to get out of love. Okay, and then for joy, again, they got a Torah scroll, and they wrote on it joy and simcha. And then we told the story of Shaul and Silas in prison, and how they rejoiced and sang and prayed, even though they were in a difficult situation, and how they chose to respond with joy. And then we had a good fruit, which was Philippians 4:4, rejoice in Yahweh always. I say it again, rejoice. Okay. And then the bad fruit was Nehemiah 8:10, do not be sad, for the joy of Yahweh is your strength. So a lot of the bad fruits had the word not, what not to do. Okay, moving on to We also taught the children, for joy, we told them, shout out kids, walk in. You just blew my big moment. Gratitude. Take two. Walk in. All right. Okay. I told them I wasn't going to ask them questions. After I said all week I'd ask them questions, so I think they fell asleep on the job. Speaking of sleeping, shalom. So we chose the banana because, well, as we said, a banana looks like it's peaceful. And we had chosen two verses, John 14:27 for the good banana. Yeshua saying, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give it to you as the world gives it to you. We don't want the world's peace, do we? And then for the rotten banana, there's the word not. Do not let your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. When you're not afraid, you have peace. And when your heart is not troubled, you have peace. Okay. Okay, then moving on to patience. Patience, the word for patience is savlanut. Okay, and then we had told the story of King Saul and how he was not patient. Show them the King Saul. And he did a sacrifice when he was told to wait 7 days, and he chose not to. So what happened? He lost his crown. Yahweh said, your kingdom is taken away. So when you pull it, because he had no patience, he lost his kingdom. And then the good fruit was, it's a long one. The kids complained about writing this one. But it was, so brothers, James 5:7-8, be patient until the coming of the master. See, the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, waiting patiently for it until it receives the early and latter rain. You too be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the master has drawn near. So again, we were talking about our fruit. We have to be patient with each other when we're not always showing the fruit of the Spirit. And then the bad pineapple was 2 Timothy 2:24, and a servant of the master, which is all of us, should not quarrel, but be gentle towards all, able to teach, patient when wronged. Are we patient when wronged? Okay. Next fruit of the Spirit was kindness. The Hebrew word for kindness is hesed. And then we talked about how you need to be kind with three things: with your words, with your actions, and with your attitude, right? Okay. And so we told the story of Ruth and Naomi. There were a lot of lessons in the story of Ruth and Naomi, but we explained that her kindness to her mother-in-law when she was gathering the grain and bringing it to her was also the kindness that is in Torah that teaches us. Zechariah 7:9, thus said Yahweh of hosts, execute right ruling, show kindness and compassion everyone to his brother. And then the Torah of leaving the corners of the field, so for the widows and the orphans. And then the bad fruit, Zechariah 7:10, do not oppress the widow or the fatherless, the stranger or the poor, and do not plot evil in your hearts against each other. That wouldn't be showing kindness. So Yahweh has kindness on everyone, and that's why he left the Torah. And the story of Ruth represented the Torah of kindness. The next fruit of the Spirit was goodness. The Hebrew word we chose was tov, for good. There's also tuv. But we represented that with two trees. In the beginning, we taught the children that there is the tree of life, and we represented that with fig leaves, and then the fig of goodness. And then the fig leaves for the tree of life was the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, and self-control. And then we had the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. and we represented that with the opposite. So we had on there written hate, sorrow, war, impatience, mean, evil, unfaithful, harsh, and unrestrained. So that the kids can go home and really soak it in what fruit of the Spirit we want to exhibit. Do we want to exhibit the Spirit of Elohim, which leads to the tree of life, or the Spirit of Hasatan, which now we know we had access to the knowledge of good and evil, so we should choose good. Okay, and the next fruit of the Spirit is trustworthiness, which is ne'emanut. Okay, and then we told the story of the parable of the talents. And in the parable of talents, show them the dollars. Okay, so the 5 became 10. The 2 became 4. And the 1 stayed 1 because he was not trustworthy. So the verses that we chose for the good one was Matthew 25:23, which says, "Well done, good and trustworthy servant. You have been faithful over the little, and enter into the joy of the master." And then for the bad fruit, we said, "Trust in Yahweh with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding." Okay? Our next fruit of the Spirit was gentleness, and the Hebrew word for that is. And we represented that just with the soft peach, and inside the peach is the opposite of gentle, a hard pit. And the good verse we had was Philippians 4:5. "Let your gentleness be known to all men." And then for the bad fruit, Timothy 2:24, "And a servant of the master should not quarrel, but be gentle towards all, able to teach, patient when wronged." Our last fruit of the Spirit was self-control. And the Hebrew word is shlita atzmi. And we depicted it with the story of Samson, who had no control over his hands and his feet and other things, and he lost his hair. And for the good fruit, we chose 2 Timothy 1:7, "For Elohim has not given us a spirit of cowardice, but of power and love and self-control." And then for the bad fruit, Proverbs 25:28, "A man who has no control over his spirit is like a broken down city without a wall." And then at the end, we made a little shalom. So that encompassed our week of lessons. So I just want to show you, this was a visual that I had asked Cece to make. We did the tree of life, and we represented it with the good fruit on one side, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and we represented it with the works of the flesh. And also for the tree of life, we put the 10 Commandments on there, keeping his Torah. Okay? Okay, and so that encompassed our whole week. I really enjoyed my class. I'm sad to see some of you graduate to Gadol next year, but I wish you well, and I look forward to seeing most of you next feast. Okay, and now my class will sing you a song. Thank you.
Hi, I am Stephanie Meyer, and Candy, I need you to join me up here. Candy and I have been responsible for the snacks for Katan A and Katan B. I have to say I had the easy part of the job because I did Gadol. So I got the easy part. Candy has had the creative thing of doing all of the snacks. So we attempted to have snacks that were related to the fruit of the Spirit, but please understand there are some seasonal issues why you won't see cherries. for the first one is there's just some seasonal issues. But so this was our snack that we did for love, because the strawberry also is one of those that if you cut it in half, it looks like a heart. So we were trying to still keep with the theme, even though we really couldn't do the cherries that we did for the thing. There we go. This was brilliant that she did. For Joy, they did a watermelon pizza, and it was amazing with all of the fruit on top. And you can see they've got some strawberries and kiwi and blueberry on top of all that. It looked so very yummy. So you can see the kids really enjoyed having snacks that help to kind of reiterate the story that has been told throughout the week. Let's go. Why won't it go? It's not liking me right now. There it goes. Okay. So this one's for Peace. This was the bananas. We did some banana wraps for them. And those were, I think that was one that went pretty quickly. I think they really enjoyed that one. Let's see. Sorry that my clicker doesn't seem to want to go quickly. There it goes. Okay, this one was for Patience because it's got the pineapple inside of the thing, but you'll also see that the kids very much enjoyed. There you go. They had a lot of fun with these. Yep. Okay, and then we have the grapes for the kindness. They were grape snakes. They were so creative. I loved what Candy did with these. So they were grape snakes. And then, yes, so you can see the kids have, all get a chance to just reiterate and interact with all these fruits so that they have something to kind of connect all these things together and keep seeing it. These were the figs that was for goodness. And we always tried to give them a little something sweet, a little something salty, and they just really loved. So these were for gentleness. No. These were trustworthiness. We just didn't have the raspberries, so we had to kind of substitute with a little something, but they got to look, we tried to, again, just make them fun for the kids so that they would enjoy interacting with the snacks and having that. We had peach cobbler for the gentleness for the peach, which was, you can tell, they really liked it. And then on self-control, they had, she did these apple donuts, which were amazing. And so look at that. Could you imagine? I want to be in their class for that kind of snack. And even the adults got to get fed for this day. So the only thing I want to say is if you had anything to do with helping at Kids Snacks, because I know that you're hiding out there, would you please stand? Stand and wave for me. Susan's already standing. Wave at me. Jason over here. And I know there you go. There are some others. Thank you. Thank you so much. Candy and I so appreciate how you came alongside of us, helped us get it out, make sure we were there on time, and we just thank you for the sacrifice that you made on behalf of our children. So thank you so much.
Great. Let's see. All right, so it's been a great privilege to have the opportunity to teach our 13 and 14-year-old youths. This was my first feast serving MTOI by serving a class, and I praise Yah that I had a framework to go off of, set up by Harnasi, and that every day I was allowed to have the help of at least one adult assistant. I'd like to give a strong thanks to all the help our class had from our volunteers, as well as those involved in providing the class with snacks for the occasional necessary intermission. Thank you, every one of you that helped. Thank you very much. So during the feast, the Gadol classes focused on learning about the fruit of the Spirit. We would like to share with you a controlled, abbreviated demonstration of what our class sessions have been like. All right. Good morning, Gadol Aleph. Today we'll be going over the fruit of the Spirit, love, ahava, the characteristics and nature of love. Let's have some volunteers read out the given definitions of some of the concepts of love. We've got 3 of them, so let's have 3 volunteers. Okay, we've got Stephen. Go ahead first.
Agape refers to unconditional love, such as the love Yahweh has for us, even when we don't deserve it.
Amen. Let's have someone read the next one. Leyland.
Philo, conditional love, unconditional love.
Read that one more time, please.
Unconditional love, unfailing love.
Filio would tell us about conditional love, and what's an example we can get from that? Again, Leyland.
What? Friends, family.
Right, absolutely.
Yahweh.
Mm-hmm. And let's get a volunteer for the next one. Go ahead, Daniela.
Eros, a passionate and romantic love, a love between a married couple.
Correct. Thank you, Daniela, Leyland, and Stephen. All right, let's open up our Bibles and read a few relevant verses to see what our Father says to us about love. Let's get to see some volunteers for reading out 1 Corinthians, Korinthaim Aleph, chapter 13, the whole chapter. We'll break it up between 2 readers. So let's have Katie read 13, verse 1 through 7.
If I speak with the tongues of men and of messengers, but do not have love, I have become a sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophecy and know all secrets and all knowledge, and if I have all belief, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am none at all. And if I give out all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, but do not have love, I am not profited at all. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, love does not boast, it does not puff up, does not does not behave indecently, does not seek its own, it's not provoked, reckons not the evil, does not rejoice over unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It covers all, believes all, expects all, endures all.
And let's have Eli read to the end of the chapter.
Love never fails, and wherever there be prophecies, they shall be inactive, or tongues they shall cease, or knowledge it shall be inactive. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part shall be inactive. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. I reasoned as a child. But when I became a man, I did away with childish matters. For now we see in a mirror, dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know as I also have been known. And now, believe, expectation, and love remain. These three, but the greatest of these is love.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. This tells us a lot about the love of our Heavenly Father. Someone tell me a little bit about what this speaks to you. Let's get a volunteer. Elijah.
If you don't have love, you can't have any of the fruits of the Spirit.
Indeed. Love, in its fullness, accounts for every fruit of the Spirit. His love is complete with every good thing, and he shares that with us faithfully. The other concepts of love, like phileo and eros, have their place, but in comparison, they are limited. They are incomplete. They're child's play next to the love that our Father has for us. Our King has called us to demonstrate a greater love for one another. Let's get a volunteer to read our next verse. Let's have Brianna read.
Teacher, which is the greatest command in the Torah? And Yeshua said to him, You shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your mind. This is the first and great command, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commands hang all the Torah and the prophets.
Amen. Thank you, Brianna. On these two commands hang all the Torah and the prophets. Someone tell me a little bit about what this is telling you. Go ahead, Wesley.
It seems like the scripture is based on these principles.
Absolutely. Everything from how he has commanded us to live and behave to everything he has promised us is all an expression of his love for every one of us. Very good. So let's think about some of the situations and circumstances where it would be, where it would not be in our nature to respond with love. What's a scenario or even a past experience you've had where it really challenged you to show love? Go ahead, Zane.
When your friend hits you and you shouldn't hit them back even though you might want to.
Agreed. That would be a challenge. Being provoked into that kind of play, knowing that you shouldn't be encouraging violence. However, to exercise the love that our Father wants us to show one another, responding with violence, even in playfulness, is not the answer. All right, so let's get another example.
When my siblings being rude to me.
And that would be difficult to respond to with love, certainly. It's not in our nature to respond with rudeness, to respond to rudeness with kindness. That's another good example of something that would be challenging to respond the right way. Proverbs tells us that a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up displeasure. How do we demonstrate love in our relationships with our friends or family? Let's get someone give us an example of how you could demonstrate that. Let's have Ashlyn go.
By being encouraging and showing kindness, by including people when they're left out, and by giving someone a hug when they're feeling down.
Absolutely. Can we get another set of examples? Go ahead, Stephen.
You can be considerate and helpful, encouraging them to do good. You can use your tone and body language to express that you care.
Absolutely. All right, so how could we demonstrate love in our relationships with those in authority? You know, whether that be towards your parents or towards your teachers, whoever's in authority over you. Let's have Leyland go.
With respect, discipline, humility, and obedience. You don't want to interrupt them while they're teaching or act uncontrollable. You want to have self-control, and without self-control, you cannot show true love.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Gadol. Ultimately, where does true love come from? Go ahead, Stephen.
Yahweh, through his word.
Amen. Amen. All right. So, Gadol has also prepared a song for everyone that they'd like to present. So, they put in a lot of good work in this, and I think that you'll all enjoy this. I certainly have been.
Guys. Yeah, it's a cappella. Okay. I do.
Who else needs lyrics? Put your hand out. Stephen has lyrics for you.
You hold it. No, you hold it. Stand up.
These are the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit in us. We want to be like Yeshua, the Messiah. These are the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit in us. We want to be like Yeshua, the Messiah. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. These are the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit in us. We want to be like Yeshua, the Messiah. We want to have the fruit of the Spirit, not being disobedient. Love does not envy, it doesn't boast. We love Yahweh of hosts. Love your neighbor as yourself. Joy is an overflow of happiness. Peace is calmness of the mind. Patience is taking your time. Kindness, goodness, be nice to your friends. No gossiping is trustworthiness. Gentleness is not being rough. Self-control, whoa, that's tough. We want to have the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit in us. Love does not envy, it doesn't boast. We love Yahweh of hosts. We love Yahweh of hosts. We love Yahweh of hosts.
Amen.
So thank you all so much. It has truly been an honor to serve the youth in this way, to be a part of preparing these young men and women for their transition in life and becoming more of a part of this community. Thank you, parents and MTOI, for this great opportunity. Shabbat Shalom.
All right, so thank you guys very much for putting that on for us. That was beautiful, wonderful. Definitely want to appreciate all of the other classes, the Gadol Aleph class and the Katan classes, and all of the love and joy and shalom that they brought to all of us getting to watch those presentations. By the way, I've got this excellent cheat sheet up here. I don't know who left this, but this is like, I'm sure it's by design because now I know the exact order that they're in. I don't have to memorize them. They're right in front of me. Okay, so what we had as material was shared between the two halves of the Gadol class. They really are, in a lot of ways, all one class. They were going over the same material. They had some interaction between them as well, and to try to understand what it was that they needed to be learning and doing. And it was a really good experience. It was also fruitful to be able to have them separated into those two groups, because what a blessing. We had such a crop of youth this year that it was way too much for one room or one instructor to handle. And so we were able to enjoy a little bit more harmony and shalom by having them in two classes. That was great. And so one of the blessings of being able to do it this way is that my nephew, who was helping and shadowing me in every other season that I've ever had, to be able to assist in this capacity, we were able to split off, and he ran the other class while I ran mine, and it was really beautiful. I could step in over there and visit at just about any moment and see how well things were flowing. He didn't really need anything in the way of additional guidance. It was really cool to see. The blessing that I had was having a class that was the widest age range out of the two, all the way from 15 up to 19. And so we had people who were sort of just beginning their high school careers, whether homeschool or public, all the way up to people taking some college courses or actually, I believe, being in college classes. So wide range of experiences and everything. And it was such a blessing to see how they could all interact together and exhibit things like patience and kindness with each other, and also give us some opportunities to remind ourselves and remind each other of what these things are and aren't. So one of the benefits that I get to reap from all of this is I don't have to spend a lot of time talking to you about what we did, because they're able to go through one by one, presentation by presentation, and show you quite directly what they've been doing with their time and what they've learned. And so all I really need to do is call them up presenter by presenter. Okay, so what I'd like to have go first, not that we're going to do them in exactly the order that you read them, and there's a little bit of a method to our madness, because the last group, they did a song, actually, that they wrote about, like, I don't know, like within the last 2 or 3 days even, you know, which is, it's very impressive, actually. And so they wanted to incorporate that, and we all thought that'd be nice to stay with the theme and end on a musical note like the rest of the classes were doing. We were inspired by that. So I will call them up in an order that will allow that group to go last. Okay, but we will go ahead and ask Mr. Tiberius Wheeler to come up and do his presentation first. Okay. We're going to get you one of these, and you can go right from the podium there. All right. And as you remember, the light here means that it's muted.
Hello. So this week we were learning about the fruits of the Spirit, and I chose to do the fruit of love because, you know, we all need love in our life. But there's 3 different definitions of what we consider what love is. We have, hope I don't butcher these, agape.
Agape.
Agape, there we go. Which is unconditional love, the love that Yah has for us as messed up people in this world. I'm just going to go phileo. Phileo, yeah.
Yeah, it is. We struggle with this Greek stuff.
We were teaching the fruit, not Greek, so it's okay.
Yeah. And that's like conditional love, like the love you have for pizza or food. It's good stuff. And then we have eros, which is like the romantic love that you have through marriage. Kind of compared and contrast what love was. And like, you know, it's kind of difficult when you're like, oh, I love somebody, but you're also trying to figure out what definition are you using for that kind of love. So obviously the opposite of what love is hate. So we kind of like in our class talked about how do we show love through our words and our actions. And I kind of brought one verse from Exodus 32, 7 through 11, and I'm just going to read that very quickly here, if I can find it. And it says, "And Yah said to Moshe, go, get down for your people whom you brought out of the land of Mizraim have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I have commanded them. They have made themselves a molded calf and have bowed themselves to it and slaughtered to it and said, this is your mighty one, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim. And Yah said to Moshe, I have seen this people, and see, it is a stiff-necked people. And now let me alone and my wrath them, and let my wrath consume them, burn against them, and I consume them, and I make you a great nation. But Moshe pleaded with Yah, his Elohim, and said, Yah, why does your wrath burn against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Mizraim, with great power and with a strong hand? Now, the reason why I chose that is because it shows that, yes, Yahweh gets angry, but it also shows that even though he said, let me burn them and let me just start over with you, he remembered his covenant that he made with Abraham, how he was going to make a great nation out of him. And it shows his loving commitment to Abraham of not burning away those people. And so I thought that was just like the unconditional love that he has for us. Even when we bow down and make idols above him, he doesn't just come and just smite us away. Then I also brought what a contrast of love was, which is from 1 John. No, actually not 1 John. Wait, yes, 1 John 4:8. And that one is going to be hard because I'm using one hand. There we go. Which is 4:8. And it says, the one who does not love does not know Elohim, for Elohim is love. So when we don't know what love is, we don't know Elohim. But I also was like, but what is love? Besides the definitions that we were given. And so I went to 1 Corinthians 13:4, and it says here, and all the assembly agreed to do so for, wait, is this? That's Chronicles, not Corinthians. So.
That's still love.
Yeah.
They agree to do what they're supposed to.
Yeah. So it kind of just like.
Works out.
Just told me when I looked at that one, it just told me like that love was patience and kindness and all the fruits of the Spirit. And one thing we realized, that all the fruits of the Spirit all stemmed from love. You can bring everything back to that. With trustworthiness, with self-control, we have to have love for the people that drive us insane. So it's crazy. And one thing that we learned from our time is something that we kept on repeating over and over and over again was, what's true love? What is kindness? What is patience? And we said, knowing our Creator and following His word. And then one way I found like I can express love through my own life is actually I experienced it from somebody else. And it's from little Wesley Navarrete. His electrifying personality, he gave hugs to everybody. He was like, oh, let me just love on you. And he was just like, he cares for everybody and just made everybody's day better when he was just like, hey, give me a hug. And so I was just like, it was great, and I really enjoyed it. So that's what I have to say on love.
Toda. So one thing that it is a real blessing amongst all of the other blessings, but I'd like to highlight for a moment, is when we think about the gentleness and the humility aspect of gentleness is so instrumental to what we need to do, that we never get so grown up and so puffed up that we can't look and learn from the little children. I thought that was really wonderful. All right, so next I would like to go and look at the simcha, the joy. Okay, we've got the ahava. We look at the simcha, the joy. All right, come on up. Raphael. All right. Okay, so lights on means it's muted. Oh, this is Mr. Raphael Chavez.
Hello. So this year at Passover 2018, the Gadol Bet class focused on the 9 aspects of the fruit of the Spirit, including love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, and self-control. We have chosen to present to you what we have learned about joy and kindness. Starting with joy, which in Hebrew means simcha. The definition of joy is a feeling of great pleasure, delight, and happiness. A verse that helped me understand how to be joyful in difficult situations is James 1:2. My brother, count all joy when you fall into various trials. If you can be joyful in tough situations, you can be joyful at all times. One situation where where it was my nature to respond with joy was on day 2 of this Passover, when the YMCA assembly served lasagna for supper. That brought me joy. It was as an opposing view. One of the situations where it was not in my nature to respond with joy was when I saw the YMCA staff eating our leftover lasagna. I mean, come on, that stuff was good, you know. Anyway, back to the fruit of the Spirit. We learned that the only way to receive joy is developing a relationship with our Creator and learning to follow His word. Next, we focus on kindness, which is in Hebrew is chesed. The definition of kindness is the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. One situation is where Raiden finds it hard to be kind is when people try to steal her candy. While Connor finds it hard to be kind when he's hungry. I mean, many of us can relate. I mean, don't lie. Thankfully, this week we learned about how to control our fleshly desires and be kind and considerate to those around us. And remember Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 to 32. And be kind towards one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as Elohim has forgave you in Messiah. This is the most heartfelt way to develop a heartwarming relationship with our Creator and further cultivate the kindness that has been bestowed upon us. Thank you.
All right, so, and one other way that we can think about kindness, and this is my responsibility to remind our class when we do this, good mic etiquette is kindness, because it helps us keep the feedback levels at a minimum. So I didn't say that at the beginning, I'll say that now, and that's something we can all remember. Good mic etiquette helps the people running the mixer keep the feedback levels at a minimum. All right, so, kindness. All right, so shalom will be our next element. And we'll have Miss Assumpta Maracino teach us a thing or two about shalom. It's muted.
Hello. Peace, or in Hebrew, shalom. The definition of peace: quiet and tranquility, freedom from disturbance, freedom from or the cessation of war or strife. These might be what we think of when we hear the word peace, but today I want to talk about what the scriptures say about peace, or in this case, shalom. Psalms, or Tehillim 119, verse 165 says, "Great peace have those loving your Torah." Another good example of peace can be found in Psalms, or Tehillim 23, verses 1 through 4. I will only read verse 4 today. "When I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me." Our human definition of peace falls short of the one found in Scripture. Where ours might only mean the absence of difficulty, the Scriptures have that and more. It says that even though we go through difficulty, Yahweh is by our side during the hardships and difficulty that we will face. What does someone look like when they don't have peace? I think of Proverbs, or Mishlei 28, verse 1, which says, "The wrong shall flee, though no one pursues." Could you imagine being so afraid that you think people are chasing you? This is a stark contrast between the example shown in Psalm 119. Notice in these two verses the distinction between those loving the Torah and the wrong. I believe this helps us to understand the source of shalom. How I choose to imitate Yah's nature and respond in situations and circumstances where it would not be in our nature to do so is by understanding and being mindful that whatever happens, Yah is in control. It happens for a reason and is part of His will and plan. So this brings me to my ending statement. True shalom comes from knowing our Creator and following His word.
Excellent. All right. So in keeping with the order as best we can, we'll go to goodness or good next. That's Tov. And we'll have Mr. Jared Shepard. No, it's muted. There we go.
Okay, I will be covering goodness or Tov, as Mr. Romlov said. And the English definition given to us by Google is the state of quality of being good, kind, and honorable. And now to explain more in depth using scripture what it is, we'll turn to Exodus 33:19. And he said, I shall cause all my goodness to pass before you, and I shall proclaim the name of Yahweh before you, and I shall favor him whom I favor, and shall have compassion on him whom I have compassion. And using this verse, it just talks about his goodness just passing before us, even though obviously we did not deserve it, and we still do not deserve it, because we all fall short of his glory. And now to turn to another verse to help us learn what it is will be 2 Corinthians 5:10. And 2 Corinthians 5:10 reads, For we all have to appear before the judgment seat of Messiah, in order for each one to receive according to what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. And this is talking about we will all be judged on, whether or not we have shown ourselves good, shown the fruit of the Spirit, shown the fruit of Yah and Yeshua, or if we have shown a fleshly desire, and because our fleshly desire our definition of good has nothing to do with the scripture, and it all just it kind of more or less revolves around me instead of what good I can do for others. And so, for the conclusion of goodness, it comes down to using scripture. Goodness is having the desire to do good and the will and commitment to do good, no matter what the situation is or what it requires. You may stumble and commit sin, but as long as you have the desire and will and commitment to have that goodness, and for Yah to provide us with the strength to get back up and the desire and will to have that goodness, and this can be put into practice in my life by having a better attitude and kinder heart towards my fellow man. And now we have self-control. The Google definition of self-control is the ability to control one's desires, primarily emotional desires and or the expression of them in one's behavior, especially in difficult situations. So my first verse for this is 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27. Okay. Do you not know that those who run in a race indeed all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way as to obtain it, and everyone who competes controls himself in every way. Now they do it to receive a corruptible crown, but we for an incorruptible crown. Therefore I run accordingly, not with uncertainty, thus I fight, not as one who beats the air, but I treat my body severely and make it my slave, so that when I have proclaimed to others, I myself might be rejected. And scripturally, self-control is having the control of one's emotions and being able to control yourself when around others to reflect the character and desire of Yeshua, to be the best example of someone walking in the way of Torah. And this can be exercised in our lives by being aware of our choice to use that self-control towards others and the desire, will, and commitment to become a better example of Yeshua in our actions. And I have one final verse to read, 1 Corinthians 10:13. No trial has overtaken you except such as is common to man, and Elohim is trustworthy, who shall not allow you to be tried beyond what you are able, but with the trial shall also make the way of escape, enabling you to bear it. And this verse also adds more to my understanding about the fruit trustworthiness.
All right, excellent. Okay, so I do think we actually did have one more before the piece with the song in it, didn't we? I was supposed to let you chain into the other one. My mistake. Gentleness. All right. And for gentleness, thank you. Light on means it's muted. For gentleness, we have Miss Kara Kaminsky.
Shabbat Shalom. So our group's topic that we decided to do was gentleness, or anava, which is the Hebrew word for gentleness. So this is one of the fruits of the Spirit, and the characteristics of this trait include meekness, humility, tenderness, and being mild-mannered. The opposite, or the contrast to gentleness, is pride, selfishness, and harshness in manner. So it basically happens when you're not considering the other person's feelings or their thoughts or anything like that. You're just kind of just wanting to brush right over them and just kind of mow over them to get whatever you want and to satisfy yourself. So it can be difficult for us to employ gentleness in our interactions with others, especially when someone does something that crosses, offends, or frustrates us. But Yahweh has clearly commanded that we treat each other gently, even when we don't feel like it. And when I learned that we were going to be doing gentleness, I was kind of like, okay, that's nice. It doesn't seem like it's that important of the fruits of the Spirit. It's just kind of gentleness. But some of the other ones seem more important. But then as I was studying it, I began to realize I actually don't really employ this as often as I thought I did. You know, being gentle, we think that, okay, well, I'm a gentle person. I'm not that mean. But when you really go deep into it, you start to realize that I started to realize that maybe I need to work on this a lot more, and maybe this is a really big part of the fruits of the Spirit. So here are 3 verses from Scripture that we picked to help explain what Yahweh's definition of gentleness looks like. So the first one is Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up displeasure. And Philippians 4:5, which says, let your gentleness be known to all men. The master is near. Yah is waiting, he's watching how we treat each other, including every word that we say to each other. He is near and he is watching. This also applies to people who are not in this walk, so it's not just our brothers in this faith, it's the people outside. But as for the people who are inside, we also we need to be respectful of each other's differing opinions. We come from a lot of different backgrounds, and we need to remember that we're all growing in truth as Yahweh leads us. So finally, Matthew 5 verse 5 says, blessed are the meek, because they shall inherit the earth. Yahweh promises blessing for those who possess the spirit of meekness rather than one of selfishness and pride. We can apply this in our lives by taking responsibility for our words and actions towards others, and by choosing to, in all situations, be sensitive to the needs of others rather than only focusing on ourselves. Meekness, humility, tenderness, and mild-manneredness are all aspects of gentleness, or anava. And true anava comes from knowing our Creator and following His word. Thank you.
All right, and what a joy and what a pleasure it's been to have these students in the class. For the last presentation that we have, it touches on both trustworthiness and on patience. And we'll call up Mr. Leighton Berry, Miss Mary Navarrete, and Miss Shay Kaminsky. So you guys will come back around this way first. Okay, and for your talking piece, here's the microphone. The light on means it's muted.
All right, so this week we've really been learning how to apply the fruits of the Spirit to our lives. I think one of the hardest ones that I'm sure everybody struggles with is patience. We have to learn to be patient with God. He has His own timing, and His timing is perfect, and He can see things before they happen, and He can go back in time. I mean, He doesn't live in the same dimension of time as we do, so we have to be patient with Him.
And another thing as well, we need to trust with, we need to build trust with God. But trust is not something that we can just get overnight. I mean, I think we all wish we could. That would be a lot easier, but it's not. But it's okay, because it's something that we put effort and we work into, and it means something at the end of the day. So, as Mr. Ramlo said, we kind of made up this song a couple days ago. We've been tweaking it, and we went into kind of the whole idea of how we need patience and trustworthiness with us. So here we go.
All right, so one of the wireless mics for you and one of the wireless mics for Mary. Okay, and we'll take care of the other microphone. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
You're good. Actually, you can maybe, yeah, something with you.
Do you want me to wait? I'll wait as long as it takes for you. I'll wait for you to say that you are ready for me. One thing I forgot to do is stay and wait for you. The fruit of the Spirit is in me. Put the fruit of the Spirit in all of us. You can rely on me, 'cause I'll try to be worthy. And on my hardest days, I'll be honest and faithful. And one thing I forgot to do is trust you. Put the fruit of the Spirit in me. Put the fruit of the Spirit in all of us. Put the fruit of the Spirit in me. Put the fruit of the Spirit in all of us.
patience, kindness, and goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. His Holy Spirit, filled with the love of His Holy Spirit, heaven's fire
Did you all enjoy that? I was so blessed by today's presentation. I know that a lot of work went into this, that as we're learning, children can rise up to the occasion to do anything if they set their minds to it. And so I know that a lot of people that have been here has said that this is their favorite day of the week. They look forward to it even though they don't have children in the program. And I have to concur. I do have children in the program, but I still thought it was wonderful. It wouldn't be kind of me or gentle of me not to mention all the people that have served this week to help the YMTOI program to run so smoothly and successfully. So I'm going to do my best to shout to all of you. Probably more than half the room will be standing up by the time I'm done. First of all, I want to thank all the Moras and Mores who helped serve this week. Sarah Beth, I know you're holding a child, so you cannot stand up, but I want to thank you so much. And then, of course, myself. Then Gadol Olive, Mora Shane Ramlow,
Moray,
Gadol Bet, Moray Raymond Ramlow, and their helpers. Okay, who their helpers were. I know that Raymond's wife was in there helping, as well as Michael Lawrence was helping all week for Shane, correct? Michael was helping you. Thank you, Michael, for stepping in and doing that. Thank you. And for Katan Bet, I had my partner in crime, Miss Cece, who helped me. Yesenia, who was a shadow this week. Thank you so much. For Katan Aleph, we had Miss Jill Ramlow, who helped all week again. Thank you. I want to thank the person who helps coordinate me, Miss Stephanie Meyer. I have to thank Miss Shira, who wrote the songs for the Katan Aleph and Bet classes. Miss Shira. For the man behind the scenes who did the video production and the slideshow presentation, Miss Marty Strabel. Thank you so much. And all the men who are back there with him, Mr. Craig Lane and
Daniel Hatt.
Daniel Hatt. I drew a blank. Okay, and also I want to thank my gym teachers who served and took the children after hours, as you could see on the slideshow. For the Katan Aleph and Bet, we had Mr. Joshua Hamer and Gary Flint. Thank you, Joshua. Gary. For the Gadol Bet, we had Mr. and Mrs. Taylor. Thank you. For the medical team who took care of all our children's boo-boos, thank you so much. I also want to thank back home, or who are here, the Bet Shalom ladies who took all the craft pieces and cut them up so that the children could have an easier time making their crafts. Thank you for doing that. And last but not least, I want to thank my husband, Rabbi Steve, who oversees. Thank you. He'll give some final words. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I left something on my desk that I need. There we go. All right. As always, that was tremendous. I mean, the whole program was just tremendous. because the ones that get the biggest round of applause, because, you know, you could come to an event like this and think it's a vacation, especially if you're one of the children. But I want to just thank you, children, for coming every day, going to class, and participating and being ready to receive and to learn. So, children, you did a great job. You know, when my wife and I first started doing all this, we didn't even have any children. You know, we'd just gotten married. We weren't married very long. We started in ministry. And so it did fall upon us to try to meet the needs of the body, no matter what those needs were. And even when we didn't have children, we were putting together projects and classes for the children. And of course, now that we have our own involved, and sadly, all of ours are out of Catan now. They're all in Gadol. Yay, right? And we're watching them all grow, and a lot of you come each time to these feasts. So we're watching all of you grow as well, and so it's wonderful, as well as watching the teachers develop in their talents and how much the children are relating to the teachers. So I want to thank all of you for participating. I especially want to thank my wife, who pretty much probably on Tuesday or Wednesday I'll start working on Sukkot's projects. Actually, she probably has already started, but just so you know, it takes almost the full 6 months to get ready for the next feast for the children's program. I mean, if you looked at what, especially for the Catan class, the crafts, the snacks, all of the integration of the games and everything they do, see, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the children, and this is also for you children, to get you to have a relationship with and engage with the Word, and to understand what your Creator desires you to understand about Him and about how He wants you to interact with each other. So we try to get those two great commands involved in the youth program, so they get to spend a lot of time learning about their Creator and loving Him, and especially how they can take that and apply it in how they interact with each other, which is loving each other, right? Love your neighbor, etc. So it's fabulous. Now, this year, I did have an opportunity to create the curriculum for the Gadol class. And so, did you enjoy that? Was it good? Thank you. Now, our goal with the Catan class, before I get to the Gadol class, is to get them to have things to keep them entertained and enjoying, so they have the joy of Torah, the joy of their relationship with their Creator, the joy of these things. So we try absolutely to make it as fun as possible. And they have, children, did you have a good time? Did you have fun? On the Catan side? Some of them are already so tired from the week they're falling asleep. Some of the teachers are also so tired. If you noticed, I missed breakfast because I was so tired. Okay, so, but that's what we want for the Catan class. Now for the Gadol class, what we're looking to do is get them to see all of this through their own lives today. Because, you know, as you get older and you start reading the Word, it's easy to see it as, well, I get why that's for them, or maybe for my parents and the adults, but how does this actually work in my life? And so what we did, and I'm just going to read through real briefly, and it happened to be gentleness I pulled out because it was one page, so it made it easy for me to print some page here. But each one of the fruit, and they went through all 9 aspects of it, but each aspect of the fruit of the Spirit, we had them deal with the nature of that fruit. In other words, defining it, what it is, and what the opposite would look like. So what would it look like if you were exhibiting that piece of the fruit, if you were gentle or love or joy, peace, whatever, what it looks like when that's not happening. But we asked them to engage with it in terms of, well, in your life, how can you see these things applying in your life? And so it's a very interactive class between the teacher and the children interacting, the students interacting and discussing these things. And then we talked about comparing how human nature would be in the area of the fruit of that particular fruit, and how Yahweh's nature would be. In this case, gentleness. You know, what does that look like on a human side? Because we can all be gentle in a human way. We can all have all of those aspects of the fruit without any need of the Ruach, because we can love, we can have joy, peace, patience, kindness, etc. We can do all those things. But then what situations, and that's where the discussion comes in, would require a little bit more than just what we have in our normal human nature. And so we did that in part of the discussion. We gave them some verses that they could talk about that would help them to have a better idea of what Scripture says about the fruit. And then we would go through a little brief additional piece where we could talk about, well, how can we show this piece of the fruit, or this aspect of the fruit, in our words? How do we show it in our actions? How do we demonstrate it in our relationships? In other words, with our family, brothers, sisters, parents, etc., with our friends, with those in authority, with other ones in the body, and especially with our Elohim, with our Creator. And so this was what each aspect of the fruit, they went through this process, just so the parents can know and the others can know, in looking at this piece and saying, what does it look like for me? How do I apply it? What's it like in my life? What's that experience like when I'm not receiving joy or love or peace or gentleness or kindness? Or we're pretty good at realizing we don't like that. But what about realizing that we also do that to others? They're not going to like it either if they're not receiving love, joy, peace, patience, etc. And so this is a tremendous part of their growth process because they are growing in that sort of space, which is a weird space, between the children, like in the Katan, and the adults. Because they're still very childlike in a lot of ways, because they still have that sort of aspect, but they're also getting a lot of maturity. In children, we've seen a lot of maturity developing, even just during this week in you, so I'm very proud of you with that. There were moments, as there always are, but there was also growth. And there was a lot of that, and we're really proud of you. So I just wanted to share that with you so you would understand that this is what our program is trying to do. With the younger ones, we want them to have a joy of coming and studying the Word and applying it in the ways that they can so that they develop a love and joy for it. Because a lot of you remember being children, and you couldn't wait to be old enough to say, I'm not doing this anymore, because it was just drudgery, boring, whatever it was, and you didn't get a chance to figure out why it was important to you. And then we go through the program of making it fun and enjoyable, but they're still learning. And then we bring them into the Gadol class where they start to say, okay, that was fun and I learned, but what does it have to do with my life at 14, 15, 17, 18, whatever it is? What does this have to do with the stuff I struggle with and deal with every day? And that's what we try to do in the curriculum for the older children. And so I think that it's, from what we can see from the presentations, I think we succeeded there. So I'm really excited about it. So fabulous job to all of you who helped to put, all the people that my wife thanked, and especially thanking her as well. Thank you all for making this a wonderful, blessed program. Thank you. And so with that, I want to thank all of you for bringing your families here, for having them enroll in the program, for helping to run the program and assist and all of the other volunteering that you do. And so I'm going to ask a little blessing here at the end before we close, and then we'll wrap this up. A reminder then that we'll have lunch, and after lunch is at 12:30, and after lunch we will be coming back here for our Shabbat services. Father, we want to come before you, and we want to thank you and really appreciate the opportunity that we have in our children. You give them to us for just a short period of time, and we love them so dearly. And we are just so excited that we can help to show them you, so they can see you, they can begin to develop that relationship with you, and they can understand the joy that we have and have that same joy also in that relationship, that it will bless them, that it would guide them, that we would raise them in such a way as that they would never depart as they grow older. So, Father, thank you for the opportunity for us to share with the children more and more about you and about your Son, Yeshua. So, Father, as we come before you now, we ask that you would take what's been there, what's been planted as a seed, that you would give those children, help them to be good ground, that would receive that seed, and that seed would grow and flourish in them. So, Father, we thank you, we bless you, and we appreciate all the things that you do for our children. In Yeshua's mighty name, amen, amen, amen. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Blessings, everyone. Hold on. Okay, this happens every feast. I want to remind you that you need to go. Oh, yes, you guys want to sing that song? Okay, we could do that now, too. But we'll do that right after the stream? Okay. Don't forget to go pick up your their children's packages and crafts and everything they did. Okay, parents? Okay, right after this. But we actually are going to have something. Don't go anywhere. As soon as we shut the live stream down, we do have a special presentation. Then we'll have you go back and get your stuff for your children. Pick it up.